I was thinking about that today. I figured we should talk about some character power stuff. Since Evo just happened, people are a little bit more confident in the kind of changes in this patch. And we have another balance patch coming up in the winter. When people think about character power, a lot of people think about tournament results. That's not always a direct case to power level of characters. Some characters are really strong, but are not fantastic tournament picks, and some characters are both, and some characters are not that good but are better in tournament. I think the game is in a pretty good spot overall. There's like the characters I would label at like the premium tier, like they're good in tournament, they're good outside of tournament. Their options are particularly overwhelming, usually risk-free, or like the value of them is so good that even if it's higher risk, it's just so strong. And there's like a few characters that I think are still probably a bit too weak that need some love. But then there's like a fat middle tier of like everyone else in the game where I'm like, I think they're all fine. It's this row of characters and Happy Chaos, right? These are like the premium characters. For Happy Chaos, for instance, his offense is extremely powerful. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your tools are even most of the time, right? Like, you're probably going to be fucked. And other characters that are not in premium tier, they have to care about what you're doing for the most part. Most of these characters, they don't care about what you're doing on defense as much. Their reward for playing it safe on offense, it tends to be similar to or better than most characters if they take risks. He has like best in class neutral. His buttons are incredible. His pressure can be extremely safe to burst and YRC, and he has excellent mix-ups that loop back into the same situations. Some of his only weaknesses are that he can explode on defense, but, you know, he has the DLC 2K that goes under everything. His clone is also very useful. The only other weakness maybe is that if his offense doesn't work and he runs out of resources, then that's a little bad for him. But his reload is so incredibly fast, and his 2K 2D immediately gives him whatever resource he needs back. I mean, he's incredibly good in this version. Same thing with all the characters in this tier, right? Like, Zato is funny because he has bad matchups and he has bad health, but he's probably like the character where when you get put in the corner, he can just kill anybody. If he backdash back throws you, it doesn't really matter, I think, because of how consistently powerful his offense is and his ability to snowball the game. Very few characters are better at snowballing than like Zato hitting you into the corner, breaking the wall with sword super, getting mid-screen setup, into the corner, you're dead. Characters like Nago even, or Leo, Ram, Gold, Lewis, like characters with super explosive offense like that. All of them are good, but Zato's offense is so consistent. Ram is very similar. I think her offense is some of the safest in the game. She can play very reactively and just play behind sword toss very safely. Her conversions off lights, oh my god. I just took like 60% hard knockdown off of this jab out of the air. Now I'm in the corner and it's close slash sword toss into please send help, into burst safe, I'm dead. Like, it's so brutal. Her mid-range buttons are incredible. She builds so much bar. She's really hard to get off of you. If you don't want to think about what your opponent is doing, you really do not have to overcommit that often. And you can really just like do very simple, safe, low commitment options a lot of the times. Like, that pressure is very scary regardless of who is there, which is spooky. Nago and Leo, there are characters that are better than them, but they are both excellent tournament characters. They both have extremely high one chance potential to just like hit you and then end the game. They have extremely high health, so it's forgiving to get hit more. Good defense in terms of challenges, so like obviously Leo flash kicking or 2D or whatever, right? And then Nago defensive buttons are quite good. They have great risk reward. They don't have a lot of stuff that's easy to fumble and drop and like mess up, and their strategies are very consistent. It's very unlikely that they'll go around without getting their opportunity to hit you, compared to some characters who just don't get that chance. Nago is a strike throw character though, who has like some of the best in class normals, especially when he's high on blood, and his lights confirm from so far. They gave him a lot of really good stuff to make up for the lack of mobility this character has. His jump is dreadful. To make up for that, they gave him his 5K, which is like a 7-frame far slash with high conversion ability. Is super good 5P. He just kills you so often. The best strategy against him oftentimes is to wait out the blood. So like let him spend the blood and then win off of neutral interactions after his neutral has been buffed because he spent his blood. You can either control him if your character has zoning options that are strong, like a character like Axel or a character like Testament, or you can RPS in neutral more effectively in this version because his 2H is a bit weaker and he has to guess where you're going to approach him at. But I mean, even then, he still has buttons like 2S that make it easy for him to still anti-air you if you jump and stuff. And Leo's the same way in terms of one chance potential. He's hard as fuck to combo. Leo is heavy and small, and his defense is like best in class because You have to respect the reversal that leads to his win condition. A character archetype like this usually is not balanced. A character archetype like this is usually rush down focused. He needs to hit you once and get in, but his weakness is supposed to be that his neutral is not excellent. But in this game, his neutral is excellent, his fireball is excellent, his defense is excellent. He's like really well-rounded. You know, they can have some trouble in certain scenarios. They're really hardy, both in terms of their life, but also their game plans are really stable. I do think a lot of people think Baiken belongs in that list, and I think she probably should too. But it's hard to say. At high level play, she's not represented nearly as much as these characters. Her like best in class, neutral at a lot of ranges, her options are so strong. Her damage, good guts, so that's nice. Her ability to confirm things is excellent. Her defensive options are very scary this version, with her 5P and parry being really threatening. Her mix-ups are excellent. Her ability to be safe on her pressure all the time is incredibly good. The problem is she's just not represented in the same way. But she's so strong. She should be in that tier. The characters I think are not premium, not in the middle, they need some love, are probably Axel, Potemkin. These archetypes, the zoning character and the big slow grappler, tend to have polarizing matchups. It's just the way they are, right? So like the zoning character wins some matchups very hard, but then we'll lose some matchups very hard. Same thing with the big slow grappler. But these two characters, they feel like their archetypes are not gelling well. Axel's frame data and how strong dash blocking is in the game really ruined his ability to zone. He really struggles to actually hold space in this game against so many characters. And Potemkin is like, there are many other characters, these three in particular, that can do like the one chance style of Potemkin, but just better with lower risk. And like his jabs and defense are bad. Pot is a character that probably he shouldn't be in the premium tier, but at the same time, he is quite weak, I think, compared to where he should be. I think his defensive options being so bad are really dreadful for him. I think these two characters, more than any two characters, need some love. After that, there are some characters that could probably fit there. I think a lot of people think Millia could use some love, for instance, or like Anji. But everybody else, I think, sits pretty handedly in like not that far away from each other in power level in the middle of the game. After the premium tier, I think most people think like Chip, Gold Lewis, Testament are characters that are probably around after the premium tier, and then characters that are closer to the bottom characters, I would say are like Faust, Millia. I'm trying to think who else. Maybe, I guess. How do I feel about Bridget? My early impression is like, I think a lot of the stuff that the character does seems very good. I do worry about a few things. One, I think flailing against the character and forcing RPS for a lot of characters could be very strong. The low health is really scary, and like the hurt boxes on the buttons. The other thing is how consistently this character's pressure is actually real and scary compared to like how much of it is fake. Because once the yo-yo's out there, you have the threat of the roll. But like if the roll is just easily beat by like do 6P when you see it, and then even if Bridget, if she bails out and does something else, you can still act. It's how consistently you can make your offense feel good and not give up your turn, versus how often right now you have to do some fake shit. I think the character should be very good. It just depends on those factors. Like how good is the offense long term? How good is the mid-range against all these characters long term? Most of the characters in the middle, I think, are in a good spot. I think most of the game lies in that area. Testament's really good in this version. I think if you like playing mid-range, that character is great. Chip is really good in this version of the game. Even though his health is very low, his consistency is much better in this version. Things like Rekka Super really help so much. He has some important stuff too, like he can fight some of the strong characters in the game pretty well. I think he's a good character in this version. I think his neutral being improved is great. His biggest problem is still how weak his frame data is for his cancels and on offense. Most of his offense is pretty committal based. Kind of similar to Soul, basically has to commit to do anything to you. He has to run in and do something. Where his damage, although is good, his ability to stick to you is way worse than before, and he needs to make that risk happen and then hit you with something big. Think about the way Kai has to pressure you in the corner versus the way Ram or Zato or Happy Chaos, or even these two pressure you. He needs to like do flip kick, or he needs to like run in and challenge with some button. He needs to like do charge stun edge and make you block it by you being scared of something. He needs to have 50 meter to make stun dipper scary. Happy Chaos just shoots you and then does 50-50. Ram throws the sword and it's like, what's good? They make strong options happen and you see if you can survive it. Versus Kai, where you're like, there's a back and forth between you and your opponent. I mean, this is how characters of this archetype always work. The problem is that Kai's frame data is weak and Soul's throw game is not that threatening. Especially without bar, wild throw is not very scary. And even with bar, he command grabs you and then spends bar to break the wall and reset you back to neutral. When his neutral is like this in this version, that's not very good. Compared to other characters where like she can command grab you and then break the wall and get a hard knockdown. Think about like what Zato or Ram or Leo Nago, Happy Chaos get out of a regular throw and how they can set it up. Yeah, think about Baiken's throw with tether. Good lord. Yeah, Millia, generally, like, she's an unreactable character, right? Like, her mix-ups are fucked up. The problem, though, is I think that her reward on, like, when she makes you block, really not as scary as when other characters with, like, really strong mix-ups make you block. She puts herself in like, a treacherous zone to do it a lot of times. Although, I think, honestly, in this version, she has some good stuff. It's just, you know, people are scared. I understand why they'd be scared. When you look at the characters that are better than her, I totally get it.
So I'm calling in the favor.
What up, Mitch?
Dice K to add Johnny.
No, I don't want to fight Johnny. Listen. Anybody in the chat who doesn't play Johnny, have you fought Johnny? I'm not trying to fight Johnny. Moving against that character, trying to play neutral against that, he's just standing there menacingly, and you're like, oh no. This character has Johnny's 5k. If Johnny comes back, they're gonna be like, well, this is Johnny's 5k. Like, he needs this back for real. You understand that, right? Corporate wants you to find the difference between these images, okay? I don't need this to come back. Come on, man. I don't. This move is already fucked up.